Hi. So welcome everyone. This is Training as Code. In this session we will be talking about how do we apply CI and CD to training development in CloudBees University. My name is Rodríguez-Gil. A bit of my background, I'm a software engineer. I have a background in working in different companies as a software engineer, as a leader. I've been building digital products, I've been leading startups. And nowadays I work for CloudBees as a training engineer. I live in the Canary Islands right here. So that dot in the CloudBees side, that's me. And yeah, we do all things Jenkins, but not only Jenkins, other CI/CD tools. So that's a bit of my background. I'm also a lecturer in business school and also at university in Spain.
And I'm Mark Wade. So I'm the father of 8 children, and delighted. They're wonderful kids. The picture's a little old, but they're wonderful kids. I work for CloudBees. I'm part of the Harmony Technology Camp for Girls in Fort Collins, Colorado, where we do an annual event to help girls be more involved in tech. And I've worked for several high technology companies. And in my basement, we have the rack of computers that I use to care for the Git plugin. That therefore means I know something about various variants of Linux and Windows and FreeBSD and etc. It's been wonderful. CloudBees is great for me. I'm happy to be employed by CloudBees and happy to contribute to the Jenkins community.
So after these brief introductions of ourselves, a bit of introduction on the session. So what will we be talking about? First, we will be describing what's CloudBees University. So the different delivery methods and what does CloudBees do, how about Jenkins. Then the next section will be focusing on this concept of everything as code. So that means infrastructure as code, configuration as code, docs as code, and how do we apply those concepts to training specifically. And then the last section will be about the stack and the future. So our current infrastructure, our current tech stack, and what are we doing for the next few months or years. So what's CloudBees University? CloudBees University, how many of you have already, or do already know what CloudBees University is, have visited? Okay, that's good.
Okay, wait a sec, that's not nearly enough. So we intend by the end of this exercise that you'll clearly know how you can benefit immediately from CloudBees University at no cost and real significant benefit to you.
Yeah. So basically in CloudBees University, our goal is to provide with training information on the DevOps space. We are highly focused on training, on Jenkins training. So we have different training courses on Jenkins administration, pipeline, etc. But we also intend to keep enhancing it with other CloudBees products such as CloudBees Core, or future maybe Electric Cloud. They already had, after the acquisition, Electric Cloud joined CloudBees, and they already had an Electric Cloud University, and we are integrating those two. But also in the future, we will try to provide training on different DevOps concepts, more general, not about products. The team, as you can see here, these are the faces of the people that are working with this. So you can see Mark Wade here, myself, and then we also have Meg McRoberts, who is a training evangelist. She's doing most of the content of the slides that you will see and the lab introduction you will see when you take the courses. Then we have Angel Viloria, which is the director of customer enablement or training and certification at CloudBees. And we had Damian Duportal, who was with CloudBees about 2 years ago. He originally started working on these hands-on labs that I now maintain as a training engineer in the team. After the Electric Cloud acquisition, Noelle also joined us. Noelle from the Electric Cloud team, and she's not here because we haven't updated the slides, but she's also part of the team.
So, a piece of CloudBees University provides instructor-led training. Instructor-led training for technical products means much more than bringing slides, right? You need labs, you need experiences, you need to feel and touch the software as you're working with it. So, in our case, when we do on-site training or we do event-based training like we did yesterday here in Lisbon, we will bring in a series of virtual machines hosted on AWS that students use to experience the training firsthand. that cloud-hosted lab environment needs to be managed, needs to be cared for. We manage it as code. We also have to have facilities that allow us in an instructor-led environment to negotiate which student gets which lab. We do it simply. We have an online spreadsheet that is part of the class, hosted in the class's environment for that exact class. And the students just register there. We have web servers that are running dedicated to the class that provide the content for that class, all administered as part of this training as code concept. So the lab environment for our instructor-led classes includes a command line environment here we go, a command line environment for if you need to access the command line directly, a Jenkins, one or more. In fact, some of the labs have 3 Jenkins servers, a Git server, the lab instructions, and the slides. And we dedicate one per student so that they will not trample on each other to keep things simple for them. We like the student experience really positive in instructor-led classes.
So apart from this instructor-led delivery method that Mark just described, we also offer a self-paced delivery. That means that you can learn at your own pace. So through the CloudBees University website that you just saw, you can register, join the courses, and take them. Maybe spend an hour today, then tomorrow half an hour, and so on. It's accessible through the website. The labs, in those cases, the labs are hosted on your student computer. So you will download a virtual machine that you will run locally, instead of having in the cloud for the on-site delivery, the instructor-led training. And then, as I mentioned before, some of the fundamental courses are free in CloudBees University. So if any of you wants to start, those of you that don't have started yet, you can just visit CloudBees University and register for the fundamental courses. Jenkins fundamentals, pipeline fundamentals, and admin fundamentals.
Right, so again, one of the ways that CloudBees helps the community is we provide those courses at no charge. You register, you can go through the slides, you can download the virtual machine, you can experience the training yourself, not have to pay anybody. You host the virtual machine on your own computer locally, so when you're in the middle of training, you can interrupt it, turn off the virtual machine temporarily, bring it back. It's there for you. So not cloud hosted for students. In this case, it's hosted on your own computer.
So how does that look like? So a few screenshots on CloudBees University. So this is the main site you will visit as a non-customer, because we have another site for customers. But in this case, you can see plenty of courses that you can take. When you register into a course, this is the outline of a course, random course I picked. And when you are taking it, you will see the different lessons inside each section. In those lessons, you will see the slides, and you can keep moving up or down within that lesson, and then switch into other lessons or sections right there. Apart from the slides themselves, we also have lab information on how to do the lab, or describing the exercises and the things you will have to do as the hands-on part of it. And that's also included in the CloudBees University site. So you will have navigation through that, and you will see all the instructions there. Then as self-paced, as we mentioned, what you will have to do when you start reading through the introductory lab materials, it will guide you through the download of a zip file, which you will have to unzip, and then just with Vagrant app will spin up your instances locally as a virtual machine. And this is how it looks, same as in the cloud delivery. You will have the homepage, which points you to the different tools that you will have. It depends on the course. So in this course, you have a CJD, a CloudBees Jenkins distribution, the Jenkins instance. You have a Git server, a Gitea, and you also have a web-powered command line tool. In other courses, you may have an ELK stack, or you may have Prometheus, Grafana, depending on the course.
So the concept of everything as code is what this is all about. You notice what we described for you is a number of cases where there are complexities in the configuration. Right? Oh, let's see, self-paced, we have to build a virtual machine. Oh, AWS, we need to build an AMI. Oh, we've got to worry about delivering the slides in this format, that format. All part of this where we want the ability to deliver rapidly, and therefore we need it expressed as code so that we can run through those steps quickly. I don't want to have to manually reconstruct a virtual machine image. I don't want to have to manually reconstruct an AMI out on AWS. So we are firm believers that everything should be done as code. And all of the steps in this process are, in fact, done as code.
If we have our content as code, we can choose different output formats. So it's not only a website, but also a PDF.
Right. So we're deeply grateful to the community that created Asciidoctor. We're deeply grateful to the people who maintain that code. We get benefit from it without having actually written the code ourselves. So in addition, our lab environments are specified. Now you remember that the lab environments had multiple components, right? It's, oh, we've got a Gitea server, we've got a web server that's hosting the pages, and we've got at least one Jenkins server in there, and at times as many as 3. Well, we can define that as code with a Docker Compose file. So it's that simple that we express it as code, and here it is, ready to deliver into. Now the nice thing about this is it means we can use this Docker Compose file to generate a virtual machine image for personal use on individual laptops, and use the same compose file to generate the AMI that we embedded inside the AMI on AWS. So again, as code matters a bunch. So in the lab environments, you'll see that we've got multiple Docker images running. And those Docker images make our lives simpler because we can deliver them as individual components to be put into this total assembly.
Yeah, and sometimes someone that comes from outside that hasn't played with training as we have, you may think this is an easy task. This is just spinning up instances of existing products. But there are other challenges that are represented in those containers, which is configuration. We need to make sure that these different tools are interacting with each other. So we want to pre-populate the Git server with certain repos. We want to make sure that Jenkins is already connected to those Git servers. We may want to have specific versions of plugins for exercises. So there are other challenges. It's not just spinning up an instance of a product, but also configuring it and storing that configuration as code.
And just like every project you've probably ever considered has versioning and dependencies challenges, likewise here, this is one of the ultimate forms of integration test, right? Training people means we're going to present integration tests live to people. So everything is code also for us means we use pull requests to evaluate all proposed changes to the training. It improves the quality of what we write, it improves the quality of what we do, and it gives us a place to insert automated tests so that we can safety check what we're creating. That test automation and build automation matters intensely as we work to accelerate delivery to users.
Also, as part of this, introducing PRs to training development, we have noticed funny cases such as, for instance, it's common to us that I create a PR, and when I'm creating the PR, we also introduce the GitHub templates for the PR. So every time I create a PR, I notice, when I'm about to mark the different checks that are there, I realize I didn't make changes to the changelog to describe the different PRs that we have.
So what Romain just described is one of my guilty problems, right? I almost every time forget that I need to make a changelog entry in my submission. And all we did was use the GitHub pull request template to remind me and nag me, oh, you can't put an X in that little box until you've actually provided a changelog description. And it has helped a bunch just by using existing tools that are already available in GitHub for pull request templates.
Yeah. To add to that, we also have we are also applying semantic versioning to it. So everything that applies to software, we also apply to training development. So how do we translate the concept of semantic versioning into training? The rightmost digit we use for patches. What does a patch mean in training? It might be fixing a typo, for instance. The second digit, a minor change, that could be we are introducing a new section so that the previous version is still valid, but we are making an addition to the course. And the first digit is a breaking change. So that could be that we are changing, either removing one of the lab tools, or we are removing one of the sections because it's outdated. So we're also using semantic versioning as part of the everything as code approach.
The concepts of everything as code have been able to be applied, for us at least, more widely than we initially expected. there were things where we discovered in our journey, oh, you know what, this could be code too. This could be something we could automate, something we could improve. So, for example, in this view of our pipeline, this is the Blue Ocean build pipeline that we're using. You'll see going from left to right, it already starts with prep the training by doing a build and link the sources. Oh, whoops, we've already got some static analysis. Static analysis on training? You bet. Okay, then the next step is build the AWS Training Lab VM and build the HTML and PDF for the training and build the VirtualBox training image that will be used for local users. Now, if any one of those fails, we want to know, and we get notified quickly. Run tests. So yes, we have automated tests that check each of those systems to be sure that they're well behaved. If that's successful, then
we also have achieved continuous deployment of this continuous delivery. How did we move from CI to CD? We had a challenge, which was that we were using a third-party tool, and what we did was we are publishing everything in Amazon S3. So our PDFs, our slides as HTML files, our styles as CSS, and also zip file with virtual machines.
And so as we were publishing, we had this legacy system that needed to receive our changes. We couldn't change the legacy system. It was outside of our control. It was provided by a third party. So instead, we adapted. We adapted by embedding into an iframe the content. So our S3 bucket has the slides, and they are just presented inside an iframe inside our content management system. It's a reminder that legacy systems can be either adapted or adapted to, and in either case, you can get more code and more automation into your system by thinking about how to address that legacy system.
And the same for the virtual machine. So we are embedding it as a link to a zip file. So that zip file is overwritten, and people are getting already the latest version with it. So now that we have discussed what's CloudBees University and what's everything as code and how we translate that into training, I wanted to jump into our existing cloud stack and the future that we're building. So I have a few diagrams. I hope I can explain them clearly, but feel free to interrupt me, and I will reply to you. So basically, how are we doing this infrastructure as code approach? Talking about the labs here. So we're using Terraform. We have our custom Docker images, and we have a bunch of scripts for automation. We have several different images, as you saw before. Like for the Git server, we have a round image to which we apply certain configurations. Same for our Jenkins images or other tools. And then Terraform is the one that keeps the state of our AWS infrastructure, and the scripts are for also automation on populating things or applying configuration. Then we have different personas interacting with our training. So one of those is the training admin. Another one is the trainer, the person that delivers it in the on-site deliveries, and then the student, which could be any of you. So as a student, so how do you interact with our infrastructure? So we have a virtual private cloud in AWS, and we have a Bastion machine that is connected to the internet. So if as an admin I want to jump into a certain instance, I can do that through the Bastion machine. Also the trainer. Then students and also trainers, if you want to load the resources, the different pages that we have there, you just go through our Elastic Load Balancer, making HTTP requests, and you will be provided with the different pages that you need. If I zoom in,
I'm going to take you back, Roman. What this did for us is this made it more, if you will, more democratic. More people can care for and feed this infrastructure. We've got not just trainers, but our professional services people are also able to start up a class instance, tear it down. It's because of the automation that we got benefits in the dispersion of information to other people. It's helped us a bunch to have training automation.
Absolutely. And if we zoom in this box, this is more or less what we have inside there. So as I said, admins can jump into this virtual private cloud to the Bastion, and students will make requests to the load balancer. And within this virtual private cloud, we have reverse proxies, and we also have service discovery. So the reverse proxies are either Nginx or traffic, and then we also have, for service discovery, we have console servers and console agents. So these are the student instances, and these are handling all the stuff that we have in our infrastructure. So we have main front server handling the different requests, and then pointing you to the right instance within the virtual machine, within the virtual private cloud. Within that, we also have nodes specific for classes. So in the on-site deliveries, you are all part of a class. And as you saw when Mark presented earlier, there is a spreadsheet, for instance, in which you will have to put your name next to the instance. So those are nodes that are a single node per class. While for the different students, we have different nodes, each of them having multiple services as containers. So as you saw before, like Jenkins instance per student, Git server per student, and so on. Also, we also use Route 53 for the URLs that we're building, subdomains. So all these instances and classes are automatically creating subdomains so that they are accessible through the internet in a nice way. So this is what we have so far until now. This is what we have been working for the last 2 or 3 years with. Now we are building the next generation of CloudBees training, and we are using these tools here, which are like the up-to-date tools that the industry is using. This is, in case you want to subscribe to the newsletter of Jenkins X, you can just use that. I'm making this is a favor to the Jenkins team. So we're using Jenkins X. Are you familiar with Jenkins X? Okay, we'll quickly talk about it. Kubernetes, and then we're using Golang now for the backend engine. Helm, React. We are now, so what we have up until now is mostly a set of scripts that we can run internally, either Mark, me, or the services team. We're trying to build a self-service platform so that students like yourselves will be able to request, when you start a training course, you will be able to request an instance for you. And that will be in the cloud already. So you won't have to use the virtual machine that we are providing nowadays.
So I'm going to disrupt there.
Sure.
One of the challenges, and we may actually have one of the audience members who suffered this challenge, is we like the notion that you use your own computer to run our lab instances. But the reality is that means we have to deliver a virtual machine image to your computer that will work on your computer. Let's see, do you have a Mac? Oh, no, maybe you've got a Windows machine running the standard Windows virtual machine system. Oh, no, maybe you've got a Windows machine running a different virtual machine system. No, maybe you've got a Linux machine with signed drivers. And what we found is that one of the problems we have is we cannot reliably trust that every developer in every company can execute a virtual machine on their local box, or that if they can execute it, that they have the right environment to execute what we deliver. So we've got problems, right? And therefore, this is an attempt to attack the problem. The other set of problems we've had is we also have problems that we're moving further and further away from one machine is enough to experience a lab. Kubernetes is really naturally a multi-machine experience. And so as more and more products are Kubernetes-based, we need to train more and more in environments that may need to act like they are multi-machine.
So this is a platform that we're building. We have front end, which has a part that is facing the students, as you can request instances, another part that is facing the trainers, as I can request a class for the on-site training. And then we have an engine that is the one that interacts with the Kubernetes cluster, creating different instances that we need for each course. I have a diagram here just to highlight or describe the development process of these new tools. So basically, for those of you that don't know about Jenkins X, so in the past we were using Team Master in our CloudBees Core instance, right? So we have a CloudBees Core instance, we have a Team Master for our training materials. We are now moving from there to the Jenkins X as a replacement for that. So Jenkins X provides a couple of things that, this is the flow. So probably with the flow we will be able to understand how it works now. So as a developer, you're either working on the front end or the back end engine. When you create a PR with a change, that will run checks through Jenkins X, a pipeline with different tests, whatever we want to include there. If those tests pass, it will create a preview environment, which will be able to check how everything's looking. In the front end, you will be able to have that working in a preview environment. Then a reviewer, for instance, Mark, may review it, and if he agrees with it, he approves it. When he approves it, Jenkins X automatically will merge it to this, will merge the source code, and it will generate a new release. When the new release is generated, Jenkins X will apply a promotion, deploy into staging. So there's a feature. There are plenty of talks about Jenkins X, but one of the features of Jenkins X is that it strongly applies GitOps principles, so everything is stored as a repo. So we have staging configuration, production configuration, the source code, everything as repos, and then Jenkins X, the engine itself, will be doing the promotions to the different environments. So when this is merged, Jenkins X engine again is notified, and it automatically promotes to staging, and then these changes are applied to the staging cluster. Or in this case, it might be a cluster, might be a namespace. We're still defining that. And then if it looks good, we can ourselves promote to production, and that will trigger the update of the production repo. The GitOps repo for production will change, and it will deploy that to the production cluster or namespace. So this is a flow of how we're doing the new platform.
So we find this much more attractive for me as a content creator. It's much more attractive because today, when I submit a pull request, I don't get to see in context how the labs will feel in that context, right? My pull requests are evaluating source code. This environment with a preview environment now lets me connect to a live running setup that will automatically be stood up when the pull request is open and automatically torn down when the pull request is closed. So preview environments and the concept from Jenkins X is helping us get an easier flow for development, an easier flow for test and verification.
Then if we zoom in here, so in the production cluster, the new platform, how would it look like? It will have the front end application running, which is what we see. We will have the engine running as well, and then when a student requests an instance, a set of pods will be created in different nodes in the cluster. So we'll have namespaces per courses or per student per courses, and we'll be able to look at all of those, and we will also have cron jobs to remove those when those expire. We'll set that expiration date for the class, maybe a day, 2 days, a week. So we will have everything running in the cluster as opposed to the existing virtual machines in AWS or your virtual machines running locally. So basically, this is what we wanted to show you, how we're doing training as code, the existing approaches, and the future we're moving forward.
Any questions? All right, thanks very much. Go ahead. Whoops, you got a question.
Sure.
Go ahead, shoot.
So we are also using Asciidoctor, and we are not able to generate like those nice stuff that you have. So what technologies?
Okay, so the question is, hey, we're using Asciidoctor, but we don't get pretty slides out. We just get HTML pages. The answer is we're using RevealJS. Sorry, we should have disclosed that piece of secret technology. That's not that secret. RevealJS is the thing, and it's. I admit our slides are kind of, I consider them somewhat bland. They're intentionally bland. It's technical training, but if you look at the RevealJS site, you will find people who've done beautiful and amazing things with RevealJS. And again, it's the same code-driven slide content, and yet very, very attractive looking. Victor Farsich, for instance, in the Jenkins X team, delivers all his content with Asciidoctor, and slides that are actually very, very pretty.
Mm-hmm. And another one. So how do you organize the order of and the structure of the Asciidoctor files that should present itself as the slides then, like in this like 2D structure? So based on the directory structure to the 2D structure, what is the master?
Should describe?
Yeah.
Yes. So there are different sides to look at that question. So the question was, how do you organize the structure of the slides, right? So we have our own kind of DSL. So we have JSON. It looks like a JSON. It is actually a JSON.
It is a JSON file.
Because I was thinking maybe not, but it is a JSON, yeah. In which we define sections and lessons. So that when we are building the slides, we're building those. I mean, in Asciidoctor you have titles, so we are mapping sections to a specific title, and same for lessons. So we're generating different HTML files for that, and then we are embedding those in our system.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, there are ways for you to. I mean, it's mapping your needs to what the tool provides, but it's a very good question. Also, to add to what Mark just said before, when we are generating the slides with RevealJS, we are providing our styles and CSS, as we said, so you can have multiple different outputs if you have different CSS files. You can, because maybe for different purposes. As I said before, having slides as source code, or our content as source code, allowed us to generate not only HTML but also PDF, meaning that for the PDF we are applying different slides, because in PowerPoint you can also generate a PDF, but we are having a completely different output for our PDF, more like a file rather than a slide.
Mm-hmm.
There was another question here, and then
you use actual versions of Reveal because
what was that?
do you use the actual version of Reveal because we have problems to generate a PDF since version 3 of.
Yeah, so
good question. So the question is, are we using the latest version of Reveal? Is that your question?
Yeah.
And I confess, I don't remember what version of Reveal we're using. We are on a version that works for us, and we're happy to share it with you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we are not using the latest.
Okay, Romain is detecting another problem, right? We haven't enabled Dependabot yet. So,
Is it a problem or is it a choice, right?
well, but nonetheless, it's a shameful choice. We haven't updated the current versions of everything.
But we can
Right,
share
so
with
we
you
definitely
later.
have for Reveal that works.
But I think I see a different style sheet for PDF printing on your side. So maybe you write it by your own. It's not the standard style sheet for printing.
And so the question was, is our PDF style standard? And the answer is probably not. The PDF style sheet was intentionally generated to fit CloudBees marketing requirements.
Yeah.
There was a question back here too.
Yeah, actually two questions. But one is this solution you present possible to be replicated in our teams, our companies, or is very dependent on
That's a good question. So the question is this solution that we're using able to be replicated outside? The components of it, certainly. We have not open sourced, and I don't think we actually intend to open source the specific pieces we use to assemble it. They're quite specific to our needs. So we do things like, for instance, embed credentials in places we probably shouldn't. Therefore, we're really hesitant to share those repositories publicly.
So we're continuously improving, right? So
Right. So what Romain is saying is the polite way of saying we make mistakes, and when we make mistakes, we detect those mistakes before we go public with them.
but that said, what we have presented is mostly, if you follow this concept, you will be able to build something very similar on your own. Because at the end of the day, it's mostly the same. It will be very similar with the specific circumstances of your company, but you will have to do something very similar to what we're doing.
The other small question is about the unit tests you mentioned you do in your ASCII. What kind of, how it looks like, that kind of unit test.
So restate the question.
Yeah. So the question is, what types of unit tests or tests in general do you apply to your pipelines? So we have several different types of tests. We have tests for the content. We have also tests for the visual machine tools. So for the content, one test that comes to my mind now is about verifying that the links are not broken. And it's something that typically, every once in a while, breaks a build.
Wait a sec, every once in a while? Okay. The corporate marketing team switched CloudBees.com from one location to another not long ago, and the documentation links almost all broke. So yeah, not just once in a while. It's very important to run those checks.
Actually, that specific case, we were spinning up instances for the training that went yesterday, that we delivered yesterday, and that
Surprise.
change was a week ago.
Right.
So all the builds for the training materials and labs were breaking because
Right.
of
So
that
it's-
specific problem.
And yet yesterday in presenting training, I relied on and was satisfied to the maximum that every link worked. So yes, indeed, continuous integration worked for me.
So that's an example for the content. Also for the labs, what we're doing is a sort of smoke test. So we are creating instances on the fly and then doing some curl requests to it to make sure that it's loading.
Right.
And then we consider that the AMI or the virtual machine is safe to go and deploy.
Is it enough testing? No, because there's never enough testing. Never, not ever. But it's testing that we found valuable and helpful for our needs. We had another question here. Evgeny, I think you may have had a question.
Yeah. Did you ever have a situation where you have, for example, 2 versions of your course where actually used, and if yes, how did you solve this using the infrastructure side?
Good question. So the question is, did we ever have 2 versions of the course being used concurrently? And if so, how did we solve it on infrastructure? You want to answer that one, Roman? I have a story to tell on this one.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so the infrastructure, because it uses Terraform, the current infrastructure, because it uses Terraform, wants to make things consistent, right? So we have a code definition, and make things consistent is important for it. Last year at Jenkins World, we were in the middle of presenting
I know
training.
what story it is now.
We were presenting training, and we decided to run the Terraform thing to tear down a few instances.
Well, I decided it.
Okay, well, but it decided, and correctly decided, it should make things consistent, which meant during the course it forced upgrade several of our courses right at that point and broke everybody. So the answer is no, we don't. We have not solved that problem and don't intend to solve that problem with the Terraform choice. All right, we like what Terraform gives us in the current infrastructure. Now in the new infrastructure it may be different. But in the current infrastructure, no, we can't run multiple versions of independent versions of the same course. It's always one version of the course.
So just to feel less guilty about it, just a bit more context.
Oh, no, don't feel less guilty.
So we had 2 days of training. So it was the first day of training was ongoing. And then I wanted to spin up the instances for the next day. And I thought, oh, that should be fine because you should not be changing the existing instances. What I had not realized is that I had changed the AMI of a particular course. Then, when applying the Terraform changes, that AMI was refreshed, affecting all the existing courses as well.
Right.
Had I not changed the AMI, that would have been fine.
Well, and Roman and even consulted, Mark, shall I do this? And I said yes. So it's not that he's the only one who's guilty of the story, right?
But what I learned from that is that even if I'm almost sure that it will not affect, I will only run those changes when the courses are done.
So, thank you very much. And yes, there are mistakes made, things to be learned, and it's great fun learning in the development space, in the operations space, and in writing code. Thanks very much. Don't forget to rate the sessions in your app. It helps the speakers. If you hated it, okay, say so. If it was okay, great, say so. Please be sure you rate the speakers, rate the sessions. Slides from the sessions will be available through the app after the conclusion of the conference. Thanks very, very much.
Thank you very much for joining us.